Donald Trump is short-circuiting before our very eyes. His inability to pivot or adjust to running against Vice President Kamala Harris and the Harris era of the 2024 presidential campaign is obvious every time he opens his mouth or takes to his social media platforms. And just so you're aware, he will be opening his mouth again this afternoon at any minute, actually at a different house this time, Bedminster, New Jersey. They are calling it a press conference, his second in as many weeks, and if today's event is anything like last or his so-called economic messaging event yesterday, then you can understand why we're choosing not to broadcast it here in real time. We will, of course, monitor it and pass along anything news-related and true. Because inevitably, Donald Trump's public appearances have been less about the issues and the news lately, as if they ever were, and more about threats and lies and demeaning people, and you know. His current advisors are pleading with him to stay on message, whatever that means. So what did Trump do today? He hired some of the way back crew. That includes, among others, former advisor Corey Lewandowski, the man who coined the phrase, "Let Trump be Trump."
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the Trump campaign that is out on the trail in full force, taking the America First agenda to the American people, okay? And the mainstream liberal media has been basically criticizing Trump for attacking Kamala Harris too much personally, right? They're saying that Trump hasn't figured out how to beat Kamala Harris. He can't figure out how to attack her. This is why he's using personal attacks. He's sparring. He needs to focus on the policies, right? As if they actually want to have a policy discussion. They really don't, okay? Evidenced by the fact that, as you guys saw at the beginning of this video, when Trump is having a policy discussion, which a vast majority of his speeches, a vast majority of his press events are policy focused. That's just a lie from the mainstream liberal media. But when he does an event that is specifically about a certain policy, like, for example, the economy, he's been doing speeches and answering questions on the economy, talking specifically about the economy. MSNBC says, oh, well, we don't want to air that, right? We don't want to air it, okay? We just feel like it's best for us to tell you what he said and how to interpret what he said instead of you watching what he said and coming to your own conclusion about the solutions that he is presenting. It tells you everything you need to know. The state-sponsored media is trying to create a self-fulfilling prophecy around Trump, where they say, well, Trump doesn't know how to attack Kamala Harris, while at the same time basically calling every attack that Trump does against Kamala Harris either ineffective or out of bounds, okay, while at the same time claiming that he doesn't know how to attack Kamala Harris. Doesn't matter what he's talking about. Doesn't matter if he's talking about the issues. Doesn't matter if he's attacking her personally. Doesn't matter how he's attacking her. They're going to say the same thing over and over again because they want to create the effect that the attacks are not effective. However, in my opinion, I do believe that they are effective, which is why these people boohoo, whine, and cry every time he attacks Kamala Harris. And it's not just the mainstream liberal media boohoo, whine, and crying about it. You also have Republicans who are supposed to want Trump to win openly boohoo, whining, and crying about this as well too, which creates more legitimacy around the mainstream liberal media propaganda, almost as if people like Nikki Haley don't really want Trump to win, because now you have reporters questioning the Trump team. Like, for example, this reporter questioned J.D. Vance about the so-called personal attacks and not sticking with the policy, even though, again, if you actually listen to J.D. Vance and Trump, they're talking about policy 95% of the time, which is the point that J.D. Vance was making here.
You've been getting a little unsolicited advice, I think we can say, from some top Republicans, an ally like former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Fox News and Nikki Haley, the former president's rival during the primaries. Sure. It's more directed at him, but still, the message is stop talking about the crowd sizes, stop talking about whether she's about her racial background. What do you say to that?
Well, I think if you tune into a Donald Trump rally or you tune into the 64-minute press conference that he gave where he was really answering a lot of hostile questions, he is talking about public policy. He's talking about the ways in which Kamala Harris's government has failed the American people. And he's talking about his vision for how to get America back on track, right? We've got to drill to lower the costs of energy and lower the costs of everything else. We've got to shut down that illegal fentanyl trafficking across the American southern border. We've got to do all of these things to restore peace and prosperity for the American people. He's got the vision to do it. Now, look, I think one of the things people actually love about Donald Trump in politics is he's not unwilling to speak off the cuff. He says what's actually on his mind. He's not always filtered. I think that's a good thing, and it's part of his appeal. But if you look at this race, we're talking about policy. That's 90% of what we're doing, and I think that's going to keep on happening.
Yeah, so I think that J.D. Vance was 100% right. And the reason why I am pissed off at Republicans like Nikki Haley going on Fox News and saying these things is because, again, they're giving legitimacy towards the mainstream media and their false narrative that Trump and J.D. Vance are somehow not focused on policy, okay? Now, I know why Nikki Haley's doing this because she's trying to run in 2028, right? She wants to have her cake and eat it too. She doesn't want to be completely irrelevant. She doesn't want to completely sit on the sidelines, but she didn't promise to campaign on behalf of Trump or to actually help him win, which, you know, in my opinion, is what somebody would do if they actually really wanted Trump to win. But that's not what she's doing because at the end of the day, if Trump ends up losing, then she wants to say that, well, I didn't really try to help him win. I wasn't really a part of MAGA, okay? And if Trump wins, then she can say, well, I endorsed Trump. Even though I didn't really try to help him win, I still endorsed him, and therefore my endorsement was a significant factor in Trump winning, right? This is what Nikki Haley is doing. She's hedging to try to give herself a strong position regardless of whether or not Trump wins or loses in this next election in the 2028 primaries, okay? She's trying to say that, hey, regardless of what happens, I was on the right side of it, okay, whether Trump wins or loses. But again, people like me can recognize slimy, dishonest, and narcissistic politicians like Nikki Haley who are trying to play both sides of the fence in order to advance her own career, okay? And she's doing that to the detriment of Trump because now Trump, instead of fielding more policy questions, now there are less questions about policies and more questions about, well, are you being too mean to Kamala Harris? Are you saying too many mean things about Kamala Harris? Which is what a reporter asked Trump at what is supposed to be an event focused on the economy. But again, they took the time to ask about Trump's personal attacks against Kamala Harris. Instead, again, thanks to Republicans like Kevin McCarthy and Nikki Haley coming out and giving credibility to this narrative from the mainstream liberal media. Take a look.
Many of your allies who want you to win in November say your current strategy isn't working, that you need to stop with the personal attacks on Kamala Harris and deliver a more disciplined message. Do you agree? And also, you added more people to your campaign today. Yeah. Is that a sign of a shifting strategy?
No, I think it's a sign of we want to close it out. We have great people. Susie is fantastic, as you know, and Chris is fantastic. They're leading it. Corey Lewandowski's coming in. He'll be, personal envoy, or he'll be at some level. They're going to be, they're doing a great job. Look, we've taken, with all of the abuse we've taken from the fake news media, all of this horrific abuse we take, and all I want to do is make the country good. All I want to do is have strong borders and good education. We want to have choice for education. So important. So many different things. You would think it would be the other way. We rebuilt the military. We did so many great things. But that's the way it's been for Republicans, and I guess more so for me than anybody in history, and that's okay. Because we're leading in the polls. For the most part, we're leading in the polls. We were leading Biden by a lot. We're leading now, but I think when she's exposed, I think we're going to beat her by a lot more than we would have beaten Biden by, because he had a little group of people that have been voting for him for a long time. She doesn't have that. People don't know who she is. As far as the personal attacks, her because of what she's done to the country. I'm very angry at her that she'd weaponized the justice system against me and other people. Very angry at her. I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence, and I think she'll be a terrible president. And I think it's very important that we win. And whether the personal attacks are good, bad, I mean, she certainly attacks me personally. She actually called me weird. He's weird. It was just a soundbite. And she called J.D. and I weird. He's not weird. He was a great student at Yale. He went to Ohio State, graduated in 2 years.
Yeah, so I love this answer from Trump. Why do I love this answer from Trump? Because a lot of people are not going to like it, but you have to respect it. He's not backing down to this nonsense, this framing from the liberal media that somehow this is a one-sided thing, right? If you were from another planet and you just kind of beamed into American politics and you listen to the media, you would think that Trump is he's just going off on Kamala Harris and that she's in a corner squealing and whining and crying, and she's just a helpless little girl who is being abused by Trump, right? Evil man, okay? She's never said anything bad about Trump. Except these are the same people who went much further than just saying that Trump and J.D. Vance were weird. These people, after Kamala Harris became the nominee, on day one were basically saying, yeah, Trump is a rapist. He's a sexual abuser. And they were saying this on repeat. This was a part of their scripted talking points.
Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Donald Trump has been going around saying he's going to easily beat Kamala Harris. She's heard this before from other sexual predators and rapists when she was Prosecutor Harris. And if he wants to know how this movie ends, he won't have to look too far, but he's going to have to go to a prison to find out, because she put away a lot of bad guys, and she's ready to make the next case for the country.
And Donald Trump has been bragging to anyone who will listen that he's going to easily beat Kamala Harris. And Nicole, we know who else has said that before. When she was a prosecutor, other sexual predators and rapists did. And so to Donald Trump, I say this: if you want to find out how this movie ends, you should ask them. But you're going to have to go to a prison to do it, because that's where she put them all.
I heard Donald Trump talk about how easily he's going to beat her. And you know who also talked that way to Ms. Harris? Other sexual predators and rapists. And if Donald Trump wants to know how that movie ends, he's going to have to go to a prison to talk to those individuals that she put away. So she's ready.
She's going to bring up the fact that Trump can appoint another Clarence Thomas clone on the Supreme Court. This is an adjudicated rapist. So this is someone who's a sexual predator. He appointed a third of the Supreme Court.
They don't know how to run against her on the issues, and they don't know how to defend her prosecuting him as a convicted felon, as a rapist, and you go right on down the line.
Four-time convicted felon who's been judged a rapist, who's filed bankruptcy 6 times, and by the way, who had his friends violently storm the last office from which he was fired.
He is now no longer, hypothetically speaking, somebody who thinks assaulting women is okay. He's an adjudicated rapist. It's no longer maybe Roe v. Wade could be overturned. Roe v. Wade has been overturned.
They've undermined Roe. The head of their party is a convicted rapist.
Here, let me do something really quickly. We just had a privilege of speaking with Ashley Etienne, who advised Vice President Harris. She described Trump as a convicted rapist, which he is not. He was found liable for sexual abuse in a civil proceeding, but he is a convicted felon, found guilty on 34 counts. Let me start by just saying I don't think that Congressman Swalwell was suggesting that Donald Trump is a rapist, but if that impression was left, Donald Trump has been found liable for sexual abuse, but he is not a convicted rapist. An extraordinary distinction to have to make, but these are the times in which we live.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. You have elected Democrats on record calling Trump an adjudicated rapist, even though MSNBC admitted themselves that, yeah, that's not true. In fact, you have George Stephanopoulos currently being sued for defamation by Trump for calling Trump a rapist in an interview. And it looks like this lawsuit may be allowed to go forward because there's a good chance that George Stephanopoulos actually defamed Trump for calling him that, which, by the way, makes zero sense considering how one of the reasons that Trump was found guilty of defamation in the E. Jean Carroll case is because he was denying that he raped her, right? So again, it's just pretty weird how that works out. Okay, it tells you how rigged the New York judicial system actually is. But again, this is the group of people that are literally trying to tell the American people, this is the gaslighting here. Trump is going too far by calling Kamala Harris incompetent or by questioning her intelligence or saying anything bad about her, right? Personally. But these are the same people who called Trump a predator, a criminal, a thug, a white supremacist, a sexual abuser, a rapist, Hitler. Again, these are the people who say the absolute worst things about Trump on a daily basis, but yet you want Trump to tone it down over his personal attacks. He might turn off the moderates, the suburban white women. This is what they do every time. But I got a question. I have a question. If these so-called moderates and suburban white women are so turned off by Trump's rhetoric, why the are they not turned off by what the Democrats say about Trump? If what these people say is true, well, Trump needs to not be Trump. He needs to tone it down. He needs to stop with the personal attacks. It's going to hurt him so much. It's going to hurt him with the moderates and the women. Well, if that's the case, why is it that that same line of logic is not applied to the Democrats who trash Trump personally on a daily basis? Why is it not applied to them? Why does nobody ever say, well, Democrats should stop personally attacking Trump because it might hurt them with the moderates? Why is that never said? It's never said. But it's always said to Trump because people want to handicap him and to try to pretend that somehow, some way it's out of bounds to criticize a so-called black woman. This is what they're doing. And it just pisses me off because clearly there are double standards here. Democrats are allowed to say whatever they want about Trump. Trump is not allowed to say whatever he wants about Democrats, though, right? If Kamala Harris was so big and bad, like the mainstream liberal media claims, like she claims, again, why is it that she needs all this protection? If women can be held to the same standards as men, right, as women have implied that they want it, right? Except that's not what they actually want, right? They claim they want equal rights, but they really don't. Just like a lot of these other people, they want special privileges, right? They don't actually really want to be held to the same standards as men. They don't really want to do that. They want all the benefits of it, though, but they don't want to do that. Why is it that there's this unique cover for Kamala Harris because she's a woman and a so-called person of color if black people and women are supposed to be so strong? To me, it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like some of these individuals are very weak and fragile because they can't seem to handle the slightest bit of criticism without boohoo whine and crying bigotry. Again, the Republicans are in a position where if they attack Kamala Harris on policy, the media doesn't give a damn. They don't cover it. So then when they start talking about, okay, well, Kamala Harris is not fit to lead because she's incompetent or she's not that intelligent, backed up by facts, right, and evidence, by the way, okay? Oh, well, you can't do that. You can't say that. That's racist. That's out of bounds. Don't do that. But Trump, Hitler, though, totally in bounds. In fact, you'll be celebrated for saying it. Trump, sexual abuser. Oh, that's great. That's amazing, right? This is what the media does. This is what they do. So with that being said, shout out to Trump and JD. I'm glad that they're not backing down from this and they're saying, no, we are having a policy discussion. And Trump is saying, yeah, I mean, I don't personally like Kamala Harris, right? I'm upset about what she's done in this country. And yeah, I don't respect her very much. And this is what I think. And I'm going to tell you what I think. And I don't think that Trump should back down from that. Trump should never back down from speaking his mind and saying things that he feels is true about his opponent, especially when his opponent is able to say whatever she wants about him and get away with it. I would love for the media to ask Kamala Harris, hey, do you think it's appropriate to be calling Trump a racist or a rapist or to be calling him weird? Don't you think that distracts from the policy discussion? Oh, wait, I forgot. Kamala's not taking any questions. Okay, so the media, even if they wanted to ask Kamala Harris that question, they don't. Even if they wanted to, though, they couldn't because she's not taking questions. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.